Welcome back, guys, to yet another episode of Dimitri's Desk. This is episode 13. Today is September 9th, and here's what we have on the list for today's episode. We're going to run through the charts as always. We're going to take a look at technical analysis for BTC, IOST, EOS, ETH. We're going to revisit some indicators that we've been talking about on last episodes. We're going to take a look at the COT report for futures on Bitcoin. We're going to look at the volumes. We're going to take a look at our alt season indicator and see where things are. It looks like a mixed day today for overall crypto markets. So let's jump into it. All right, as always, we're going to kick this off with IOST USD daily chart. As you can see, we haven't made much of progress in terms of price appreciation or actually a decision on a meaningful direction. Looks like we're still struggling to recover from that bottom that was made at 0.6. Looks like things are kind of bouncing up a little bit. At the moment, we can see that the buy volume is actually looking pretty solid. RSI, it looks like it's above that oversold indication of 30. So it looks like we still need more time to figure out when is that next move or the push to the upside is going to happen, even though we've talked about the OBV volume has been looking good in terms of buyers and sellers, where the buying volume itself has been outweighing the selling volume that we've seen. So it is interesting to spot these spikes in the buying volume, like, for example, this one on, let me see, September 9th, which is actually today. So it is interesting to watch this volume as it pushes the prices around for IOST USD. As I said, again, we really need to move above 0.7 to really indicate a price recovery in the short term for IOST USD. So right now we're still kind of waiting, sitting tight for that short-term opportunity to come. Next up, we got ETH USD on a daily chart. Looks like things are developing in a way that we want to see. Basically, we made a higher bottom here on the 6th of September, and we started pushing higher. So now we're seeing some higher highs that we haven't seen in some time. So this is a possibility for bounce for ETH, but however, we still have to respect that 200 as being the mark. I mentioned this before on previous episodes, where I wouldn't really be interested in ETH until it actually breaks through that and starts recovering there. So right now, even though we're seeing a little bit of a slowdown to the downside, I'm not fully convinced for an opportunity to go to the upside right away. So at the moment, it looks like we're developing this pattern right here, which could be essentially something that turns ETH USD around. But for the moment being, it's still a sit-tight situation for ETH USD. As a matter of fact, what's interesting, what I've noticed is ETH BTC showed something in regards to divergence, which caught my attention with RSI and a bullish engulfing. So basically, on a daily chart of ETH BTC, it looks like we have RSI that dipped below that 30 mark, which indicates oversold. And then we had a day that was a pretty green day that essentially showed us a bullish engulfing with RSI crossing above that oversold mark, and we continue to rally higher. So it'll be interesting to see how far this will go. Given the BTC dominance and overall market, how far ETH will go in this little bounce that we saw just recently against BTC. EOS USD, right. So we've talked about this many times, right? I've talked about how disgusting this recent price action has been for EOS USD, where we really couldn't decide on a direction. And it looks like we did get some meaningful candles in past 3 days, including this one. So we see a little bit of a pickup in the volume for buying. And looks like we did bounce and recover from that $3 mark, as I mentioned, that we needed to hold in order for EOS USD to potentially show some price appreciation to the upside. So we did get that. Looks like we're close to that $4 mark now. I did mention, I'll be waiting until $5 to really turn around on EOS USD and start looking for potential opportunities to the upside. But at the moment, if you take a look on a 4-hour chart, and you have RSI as well as the price action here, you'll notice somewhat of a divergence here. So we see RSI going down, then we see the price going higher. So this actually indicates a bearish divergence. So I'll be very careful in terms of getting caught here on a buy side for EOS USD, especially at the levels where we are now. I'll be looking actually most likely for more retest of that $3 mark before we really start making any type of recoveries in the short term. So keep that in mind as you're looking at EOS USD. Again, it's still not showing anything where I would really jump in and start looking for opportunities to the upside. All right, so now we got BTC USD. So as we mentioned last time, I was talking about the recent run that we had, that we popped from 9,500 and we started hitting resistance around 10.8 here, and looks like we're coming down from that side. As I mentioned before, that you guys should be looking for profit taking if you did catch that run from 9,500 all the way up to 10.8. And looks like we already started dropping off. As you can see, we start shaving off on this price action. Looks like we're went down as low as 7% here to 10.1. And the way the candles really look like, the bulls are struggling to carry this over to the next level, meaning retest of 11,000 and higher. Looks like we're still confined within this descending triangle pattern that we have here that essentially shows usually a bearish formation. But of course, it doesn't work all the time. Sometimes descending triangles do break to the upside, which indicates a further momentum to the upside. Now, at the moment, the way BTC USD looks like, as I mentioned on a previous episode, I'm looking forward to seeing it drop a bit lower back to that bottom side of 9,500, and I wouldn't even be surprised to see a retest of around 9K before we really start accelerating to the upside for BTC USD. Because the way things look like now in terms of price action, we see these aggressive sell-offs that happen quickly. And if you take a look actually on a weekly chart, you'll see that the area that I have painted here is being a consistent weekly resistance that we've been struggling to really close above that. And this can be even amplified to a monthly chart where you can take a look and see how the monthly candles look like. This is a new monthly candle that we'll be watching very closely to see if it's going to close on the green side compared to the other ones that we have on the red side. The monthly closes have been pretty brutal for BTC. So again, with all of that in mind, we can see that it is possible to revisit the 9K levels as the price action is showing us here. On the September 5th, we saw the specific pattern of a daily candle, which is called a doji. Doji basically indicates an indecision in the market price, which essentially the next candle dictates the direction of the price. Looks like we did get that doji, and then after that, we had a spike that actually tested that 10.8 level, 10.9, and then we dropped off and closed actually on the low side, 10.3K. So we did have that negative close post doji, which should indicate the direction shifting to the downside as the sellers have decided the next direction, short-term direction for BTC USD. So again, if you're picking trades for the current market conditions, be very careful, because if you are taking a short position, make sure that the risk reward makes sense, meaning that you're risking 1 to make 3 at least. And same thing for the buy side. If you are looking to pick this up as it drops down to the 9K level, make sure that you have your risk management set up as well. So keep that in mind. Again, the outlook for it in the short term, I'm looking forward to a price decrease to that 9K level for BTC USD. Now let's jump into the BTC dominance against the total market cap. We've been discussing this on previous episodes, and I've actually outlined here, as you can see, where we had the alt season, where we had the total market cap popping and BTC dominance falling, and now not alt season, basically showing the BTC dominance climbing higher and then the total market cap dropping off. So this is something that we watch very closely. We did have a day just recently where we had BTC kind of struggling and the alts were in the green, and I saw a lot on Twitter and just in chat rooms, people were discussing, oh, here it is, this is the sign of alt season. But in the bigger scheme of things, as we can see here on the weekly chart, based on this indication, we're still not in alt season. We're still having that drop off in the total market cap, and then BTC dominance is still rising. If you take a look actually at the total market cap, and as far as the volume goes, this is total market cap excluding BTC. On balance volume outline here that shows you buying and selling volume in a line chart. As you can see, that has been dropping off. So you can see that we are getting a pickup in volume, but it is very important to see what kind of volume we're getting in terms of pickup. We can have a pickup in buying volume that shows a bullish scenario, or we can have a pickup in selling volume which shows a bearish scenario. And it looks like right now at the moment, the way OBV dictates the volume, so BV is showing that there's more selling volume than buying volume, and it's been somewhat consistent since July 8th essentially, and then we can see that drop off in terms of total market cap. So as that continues to happen, the volume will dictate the price of alts, and we've seen a lot of alts have been bleeding out. And until this actually turns around, until we have some buying volume, OBV turns around, that's when we can actually start discussing a possibility of an alt season and alts having a relief rally essentially. So for the moment being, it looks like we're still consolidating in alts, and the way the volume looks like, there's more sellers than buyers. All right, let's hop into COT report. This is Bitcoin futures CME Group commitment of traders report. So we've talked about this where we looked at the dealers, right? So these are the sell side guys, right? The institution that sells you the contract for futures. So most of the time they offset their risk by offsetting their buy and sell positions with other traders or other institutions where their books are flat. As you can see that on 8/6, 6/11, and all of these dates here that indicate flat book where they don't have a meaningful direction in terms of their trades that they hold. But they've been holding a short position just lately since 8/13. And just recently on this report that came out on 9/3, they showed some buying positions on their books as well as the sell positions that they have held since 8/13. The sell positions haven't changed, but the buying positions actually came in. So now they're holding essentially a portion of their books in the buy positions that they haven't offset, as well as the sell position that haven't been offset. So it is very interesting. It actually shows you the choppiness in terms of what's going on with the volatility in BTC. So these guys are not really sure on the exact direction where it's going to go, but they still wanted to hold some of the exposure in the market as BTC fluctuates up or down. As far as the asset managers go, these are the institutional traders of BTC futures. You can see that the gap between the buy positions and sell positions has been growing. So they are actually picking this up quite heavily, which makes sense. If we have these dips that go to 9,500, it's an amazing opportunity for these institutions to start picking up their positions. And this is pretty much what it reflects, that on 9/3, the snapshot was taken of the positions on these institutions where it's a possibility they had their trades filled at the 9,500 price. So, and we see the short positions are actually falling. The last time we saw these type of gaps were in 7.9 and 7.30. So we'll see how this plays out for COT report in relation to the USD BTC price. All right, guys, that's about it for today's episode. Hope you enjoyed. Please leave any comments that you have about the information that you received. Really appreciate that. And as always, be safe out there and happy trading.